Although Xianxia resided in the extreme Dan King courtyard, he was still given some place to reside in here. When he saw a lovely and sweet girl along with a girl with a mature charm in the courtyard, he could not help but be secretly surprised. "Ruru, how come you're here?" Zhu Rong hastily asked. "Elder sister, this seems to be the residence of men. You girls can't just come in here." Yun Xiaodao's complexion turned horrid as he took occasional glances at Zhu Ruru. Yun Sui replied in a warm and enchanting voice, "Don't worry, I accompanied Ruru to see you." Chen Xiang prodded Zhu Rong's waist and asked in a low voice, "What the hell is going on here? What is the relation between your younger sister and Xiaodao?" "Well, I never wanted to recognize little rascal Yun as my brother-in-law, Sai. I can't do anything anyway. I need to make a confession to you." Zhu Rong, with a helpless look, replied. Meanwhile, Yun Xiaodao also heaved a long sigh. Chen Xiang had a sudden urge to laugh, however. He still held himself back. "So they were already booked. Then why did you introduce your sister to me? Ha ha. If you took a liking to Ruru, then she could not marry little rascal Yun. How do I say this? You are a lot stronger than little rascal Yun." Zhu Rong shamefully replied in a low voice. Chen Xiang chuckled. "Xiaodao, your wife is not bad. Why would you become dejected and despondent? She is good. But just thinking about calling this pig as my brother-in-law makes me feel sick." Yun Xiaodao said in a dejected voice. "Little rascal Yun, you need to call me brother respectfully." Zhu Rong also felt uncomfortable. "I gave my sister to you and you cheaply got her. How dare you call me pig? Father can marry your sister is your good fortune." Yun Xiaodao shouted back. "You look like a monkey. Don't flatter yourself. My sister married you out of kindness." Zhu Rong also started shouting. Soon they began to quarrel again. Cough, cough. From a distance, Zhu Ruru's light coughs came over. "Xiaodao, what did you promise me?" Her tone was carrying a subtle hint of strictness, making Yun Xiaodao shut up immediately. Chen Xiang suddenly discovered that although Zhu Ruru was called Ruru, she was not gentle at all. Every day he would hear Yun Xiaodao complaining about how fierce and strict his wife was, and thinking of this, Chen Xiang once again had wide grin on his face. Chen Xiang shot a palm on Yun Xiaodao's back and said while laughing, "You actually got married, yet you didn't invite me. You're truly lacking a sense of brotherhood. He especially didn't invite you. This idiot actually intends to hide it from you forever. Ha ha ha." Zhu Rong started laughing. "Younger brother Chen, your information is out of date. You didn't even know the wedding between Zhu family and Yun family." Zhu Ruru and Yun Sui came over, and Chen Xiang, for once, intently looked at them. Zhu Ruru looked gentle and sweet. She had a striking contrast over Yun Sui's mature charm and hot figure. "Elder brother Chen, hello? I often hear Xiaodao mention you, however. He always said you are very busy. That's why he can't take me to see you," Zhu Ruru said with a light smile. Chen Xiang laughed as he took out 2 building foundation dawn. He gave one to Xiaodao and the other to Zhu Ruru before speaking. "At the time of your wedding, I was indeed preoccupied with something and I couldn't come. Consider this as your wedding gift." Zhu Rong's eyes suddenly shone as she exclaimed, "Younger brother Chen, you are truly kind." While talking, he extended his hands to grab Zhu Ruru's building foundation dan. However, before he could even take it, his hand was slapped by Yun Xiaodao. Yun Sui had heard from Yun Xiaodao elder brother Chen is very generous person, yet she didn't expect him to actually be so generous. In one shot, he took out 2 building foundation dawn, and he also had a does not matter look on his face. She remembered at the time of Yun Xiaodao's wedding, the most precious gift they received was a few 100,000 crystal stones. She suddenly understood why Yun Xiaodao would make her think of ways to get married to Chen Xiang. Both Yun Xiaodao and Zhu Ruru were very surprised. They knew Chen Xiang had only obtained just 3 building foundation dawn from the Lu family, and there was no need for him to be so generous. Zhu Rong asked, "When I get married, can I also have this gift?" Chen Xiang laughed and replied, "Of course. Ha ha. Well then, I just have to get married multiple times." Zhu Rong had just finished speaking when he was suddenly kicked by Yun Xiaodao. What made Chen Xiang feel even more interested was that, after Su Weilong entered, He neither spoke nor took a look at Yun Sui. Meanwhile, from time to time, Yun Sui would also have strange light in her eyes as she stole glances at Su Weilong. "We'll take our leave." Yun Sui grabbed Zhu Ruru and left, and only after they left did the atmosphere tone down a little. Everything turns chaotic when there's a woman in here. Sigh, we even need to be cautious with the words we are speaking. Yun Xiaodao heaved yet another sigh as he spoke. Zhu Rong laughed evilly and spoke. "Hey, didn't you notice? Little Rascal Yun's older sister actually took glances at Squinted Dragon. Ha ha ha." Su Weilong glared at Zhu Rong once before speaking dismissively. "This is my charm. Don't just think I'm hated by everyone. I'm also loved by someone." This made Chun Xiang and others broke into laughter till they have to hold their bellies. "Humph. Don't talk about women anymore. We have to talk about our great plan first." Yun Xiaodao, when he thought of himself calling Su Weilong as brother-in-law, he felt uncomfortable once again. He had been married to Zhu Ruru for so long, yet he had never called Zhu Rong as his own brother-in-law. Although he didn't call him as such, there was still a shadow in his heart. "Little Rascal Yun, before I had promised you to help keep your secret from younger brother Chun, but now that younger brother Chun himself came to know about it, I don't have to help you keep your secret anymore." Zhu Rong proudly smiled and spoke. Chun Xiang realized that Yun Xiaodao, in order to make Zhu Rong and Su Weilong guard his secret, had to pay a hefty price. "Isn't that going too far? Your wife is not a bit rude and unreasonable, moreover. She is Zhu Lao's younger sister." Chun Xiang laughed and said, "Exactly because she is Zhu Lao's younger sister that I'm feeling unwell." Yun Xiaodao shut the door, and the four of them once again began to talk about building their own force. At this point, Zhu Rong also turned serious. "I looked into the Lu family and discovered some astonishing things. I think the extreme martial sect should also know it, however, there was nothing in it for them. Lu family's most powerful is not Lu Shang, but a guy who had entered a devil path sect. Because this was an ignominious matter to the Lu family, they declared that their most powerful person was Lu Shang. However, now that Lu Shang has been killed by younger brother Qin." Chun Xiang frowned and said, "Last time during my duel against Lu Jingnan had used a very evil martial technique. Was it taught by this devil path disciple of the Lu family? It is possible that the Lu family and that devil path disciple still have dealings, however, this does not constitute a threat to the extreme martial sect. Also, the extreme martial sect don't have any evidence yet to prove that the Lu family and the devil path sect have some relations." Su Weilong said, "Colluding with the devil path sect, it was highly intolerable by the righteous sects. I'm going to the Herb King Mountain to investigate. I'm not finished with the Lu family." Chun Xiang clenched his fists and coldly said, "I can only temporarily find 5 good 10th level mortal martial realm martial artists from my investigation. These 5 men appeared to be very honest, but they are usually quiet and impoverished. They are often despised by some disciples of noble birth. However, their behavior is very good and even their strength is also okay. In fact, they can be considered as among the best in the 10th level of the mortal martial realm. Prior to new reforms, they were all in the 200th martial courtyard." Su Weilong said. Chun Xiang nodded his head. "We are looking for such people. However, we should first solicit them into coming here, and we will observe them for some time. If they are trustworthy, then we'll vigorously nurture them." The extreme martial sect's reformation was almost finished. That was why most of the disciples were now living in their respective courtyards. Many disciples even began to receive missions and the generous benefits, as well as compete with other disciples. Yun Xiaodao, Zhu Rong and Su Weilong. The trio now didn't lack any resources, and now their only concern was to how to get the Golden Disciple title as soon as possible, since all of them were a lazy bunch. Chun Xiang resided in the extreme Dan King courtyard in the night, and if he was free during the daytime, Yun Xiaodao and trio would always come in here to brag. Today, as Chun Xiang walked into the small room, he saw a white-haired old man with calm demeanor present. He immediately recalled that this old man was once together with the elders, and he should also be an elder from the elder courtyard. "I'm Elder Tan, the elder responsible for assigning the missions." That old man introduced himself with a smile. The trio of Yun Xiaodao, Su Weilong and Zhu Rong were also inside the hall. Elder Tan, what can I do for you? Xianxia asked. The young elders of the extreme martial sect were relatively large in number, and they were also stronger compared to their older counterparts. When disciples saw these younger elders, they generally didn't need to observe proper obeisance, and because of that, many elder were easy to approach. I came here to give you a task. Elder Tan's complexion turned somewhat serious. Only you can complete this task, because only you can reach that place quickly. Chun Xiang nodded his head. He had vermilion bird fire wings, and anywhere would be a piece of cake for him to quickly reach. We have just received information that our extreme martial sect's disciples in the vicinity of the Proud Sword sect have encountered an attack from the Devil Path martial artists. These Devil Path martial artists are not very strong, and they are more or less in the second and third level of the true martial realm. Elder Tan described the mission. Chun Xiang doubtfully asked, "Isn't the Proud Sword sect there? Can't we ask help from them?" Elder Tan shook his head. The Proud Sword sect have always been aloof and they never help outsiders. It was even rarer for them to have contacts with other sects since they regard themselves as aloof from the worldly affairs. They regard themselves as the strongest sect of the Chenwu mainland, however, they have always been suppressed by the extreme martial sect. To put it simply, they will not help us in any way. Chun Xiang had also heard this, however. He didn't expect the Proud Sword sect to be so unreasonable. He nodded his head. Leave them to me. This is regarded as a level 6 mission. You have to be careful. Elder Tan took out a sheet on which a map was drawn, along with some detailed information to assist Chun Xiang. After Elder Tan left, Su Weilong whispered, Chun Xiang, you have to be careful. I seem to remember this Elder Tan had pretty good relations with Lu Shang. Chun Xiang frowned and said, I will be careful. After Chun Xiang left the extreme martial sect, he aimlessly strolled in the Tianmen city from east to west. As the night arrived, he entered a hotel, and after posing a disguise, he left the Tianmen city early in the morning. He followed a group of Danxiang Taoyuan's martial artists leaving together the city. It was better to hide his whereabouts. With this, Chun Xiang wouldn't need to be afraid of getting attacked by some fearsome martial artists now that no one could find him. He followed that group for 3 days, far away from the extreme martial sect, and in a city, Chun Xiang detached himself from the group and entered in a mountain forest alone. To reach the Proud Sword sect, you need to pass through the Taoyuan province. Aren't you going to meet that seductress, Hua Xiangyue? Su Meiyao said with a gentle laugh. No, I'm going to hurry and resolve the matter. Chun Xiang leapt into the air as a pair of huge fire wings appeared on his back. Then he flew towards Danxiang Taoyuan. With the help of the vermilion bird fire wings, Chun Xiang's speed was extremely fast. He was also pretty high in the air, and as such no one would be able to attack him. During the time he was away from the extreme martial sect, he was very cautious. He had a very deep-seated hatred with the true martial sect as well as the beast martial sect, not to mention the free immortal sea from the seas. The Divine Sword Province was under the jurisdiction of the Proud Sword sect, and the martial artists born and raised there were all sword users. The sword, in their eyes, was the most noble weapon, and other kind of weapons were regarded as inferior by them. Chun Xiang flew continuously for 10 days across the Taoyuan province. It was his first time embarking on the land of the Divine Sword Province. It was pretty much the same as other provinces, rich in spirit qi, with beautiful forests. Where he was going was at the edge of the Divine Sword Province, close to the Icewind Polar region, which was at the border of the Proud Sword sect. The Icewind Polar region was also known as the Icewind Province, the smallest province among the Chenwu 9 provinces. It has one of the worst environment and it has a very scarce population, to the point that it was almost uninhabited. It was under the jurisdiction of Icewind Valley, and even though it only had this sect, this mysterious sect, the Icewind Valley, was still very powerful. If I could finish the mission quickly, then I can visit the Icewind Valley and see Yulan. Chun Xiang was very eager to meet this sworn sister. In his mind, the silhouette of a mature and elegant white-haired beauty appeared. After their separation in the King City, he never had contact with Lang Yulan again. While flying, Chun Xiang felt more and more cold. He knew that he had arrived at the border of the Proud Sword sect. Soon, A city came into his view, and far away in the outskirts of this city was a crystal stone vein. Because it was discovered by the extreme martial sect's disciples, it was being mined by the extreme martial sect for about 20 years. It was also the reason why the Proud Sword sect bore a grudge against the extreme martial sect. It was not a problem to mine a large crystal stone vein for dozens of years, and the extreme martial sect was also very kind. They didn't mine secretly and even divulged it to the Proud Sword sect. In accordance with the rules of the Qinwu mainland, the extreme martial sect could mine this large crystal stone vein for 20 years. Now that the extreme martial sect was attacked by the Devil Path martial artists here, the Proud Sword sect would never take action, and on the contrary they would gloat. Xianxia arrived in the city. This city was known as the Frozen Sword City, and every martial artist in this place was carrying a sword either on their back or on their waist. This was the custom passed from the old times of the Divine Sword Province, and Xianxia, in order to not stand out, had already taken out a sword and hanged it on his waist. It was very cold here, however, if martial artists were strong enough, they would not be afraid of the cold. Instead, they could withstand the cold qi invading their body with their vigorous true qi. Everybody who wore thin clothes were mostly strong martial artists. Xianxia now wore thick clothes. He feared that Elder Tan colluded with the Lu family, and intentionally made him come here in order to ambush him. So the very first thing he inquired about was whether the extreme martial sect disciples were attacked by the Devil Path martial artists or not. In the lobby of a hotel, various good and bad people mixed in together. Xianxia came in and ordered a few dishes. After rewarding a waiter 3 crystal stones, he began to ask some stuff. "Little brother, I'm from outside and just arrived here. I want to ask whether there are Devil Path martial artists in this neighborhood?" Xianxia asked. A crystal stone was not a small fortune for the waiter. Even if Xianxia wanted to inquire about his 18 generations, he would not hesitate to tell. The waiter was thin, inherently born with a smiling face. At this point, he was even more happy. "Distinguished guest, you may not know it, although there are Devil Path martial artists here, they are afraid of our Divine Sword Province's people. However, for unknown reasons, during the past month, the Devil Path martial artists have been frequently coming to rob the mines in the outskirts of the city. A good number of disciples from the extreme martial sect have already fallen in their hand. Regarding this matter, the governor's office didn't manage it. The same with the Proud Sword sect. From the first place, they bore a grudge against the extreme martial sect. However, the extreme martial sect's disciples are not bad. Whenever they came to the city, they would provide rewards to many, and although they have been mining in the Divine Sword Province, it is only for 20 years, that's all. Now it was time for the Proud Sword sect to take over, and they can mine for a good dozen of years. If the mine wasn't discovered by the extreme martial sect, even their fart would not exist here, and also because of this, many genius came to the city. Xianxia noticed that the Proud Sword sect was not very popular, and he also noticed there were a lot of people begging on the sidewalk in the city. Such things would never be found in the extreme martial province. Xianxia took a stroll in the Frozen Sword City for quite some time, exploring the city, collecting more information before buying a map. This map contained detailed information on some mountain ranges within the vicinity of the Frozen Sword City. After comparing it with the map given by Elder Tan, Xianxia discovered the 2 routes were different to his surprise. Although both led to the same destination, the Crystal Stone Mine, the map route provided by Elder Tan was somewhat longer, with a very long roundabout route. On the contrary to the map that Xianxia had just bought, furthermore it had a footpath. "It seems that Elder Tan was truly plotting against me," Xianxia sneered in his heart. "I have to meet trickery with another trick. Let's see what they have planned, and if possible massacre those planning to ambush me." Xianxia left the Frozen Sword City, and followed the route from the map given to him by Elder Tan. After entering a forest, Xianxia indeed found a path according to the map, and after a closer inspection he noticed the path had been just recently dug up. Upon noticing this, he was even more certain that this was a trap Elder Tan and the Devil Path sect set up. The Lu family's most powerful member was a guy from the Devil Path sects, and also the person who passed that evil skill down to Lu Jingnan. In light of all of this, it was impossible for the Lu family to not have any dealings with the Devil Path sects. Xianxia didn't go down the path, but merely followed near its vicinity, with his guard raised. For further assurance, he also made Long Shui pay extra attention to their surroundings. After walking down the path for half a day, Long Shui suddenly shouted, "I sense an aura, although this guy has restrained his breath perfectly, but he can't hide it from me. This guy is a lot stronger than you." Xianxia was surprised and asked, "What level? And where?" "He should be in the 5th level of the true martial realm. His strength is mainly in his true qi. It's an extremely firm and yang true qi, and possesses a very dense bloody aura." Long Shui replied, "I sense him is hiding under the ground. He should specialize in assassinations. The 5th level of the true martial realm. If Xianxia really did get ambushed, it would truly have been dangerous. It should be Devil Yang True Qi from the Devil Yang clan. The status of the Devil Yang clan among the Devil Path sects is similar to that of the Extreme Martial sect. It can be regarded as the strongest sect among the Devil Path sections. Although the Devil Path sects have many conflicts with the righteous sects, they rarely dare to occupy mines belonging to righteous sections. Is there a lack of resources in the Devil Province? Bai Yu asked with doubt. Although the Devil Province area was not small, there were many large Devil Path sects and countless smaller sections. Although they all walked the Devil Path, there was still a need of a large amount of resources. Kill or not to kill? Xianxia inquired an opinion from Su Meiyao and others. Don't kill him, engulf him. Bai Yu coldly smiled. Xianxia was shocked at the suggestion to use the engulfing devil technique to engulf his opponent, not to mention it was a 5th level true martial realm martial artist, many levels above him. Currently your constitution is far better than before, your body can accommodate a large amount of true qi. There's no need to worry about blasting yourself to death, Bai Yu assured him. Xianxia nodded his head. He was now in the 2nd level of the true martial realm, while his real strength was almost encroaching the 4th level of the true martial realm. There was no great disparity between him and a 5th level true martial realm martial artist. Moreover, he was in wilderness and there was no one else present here. The other party was a Devil Path sect's evil disciple, so Xianxia could use the engulfing devil technique without any worry. Although the engulfing devil technique should not see the light of day, when it is used, it should be used without any delay, Bai Yu said. Xianxia nodded his head and cautiously went forward in accordance with Long Shui's guidance, silently shuttling through the trees on the trees. Not the slightest sound was made as Xianxia silently approached his ambusher. That Devil Yang clan's disciple was beneath the earth. Due to this, he mainly had to rely on his hearing and vibrations to determine if someone was close by or not. If Xianxia was on the trees, it would be impossible for the assassin to detect any vibrations in the ground, and the sound made while shuttling would be disguised in the rustling of the leaves in the wind. He's right down there, covered in a thin layer of soil. You should be able to pierce a claw through the dirt and reach him. Long Shui pointed on the ground and said. Xianxia released his divine sense and quickly discovered a man buried under the path. That person possessed a very rich as well as brisk true qi in his body. It seemed that he was ready to take action at a moment's notice, similar to a ferocious tiger waiting to attack after storing enough power. A layer of transparent true qi appeared on Xianxia's palm, circling around it. This was the profound aura finger, however, he was also using the universal true qi. At the same time, Xianxia operated the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, converging his entire breath. He lightly jumped off the tree, with his 5 fingers clasped together acting like a spear tip. He aligned his path with the man prone on the ground, and thrusted straight towards it. Xianxia's target was the part of the man's area with the most rich true qi, his dantian. Not to mention the soft soil, even if it was hard iron, Xianxia's 5, profound aura finger, would be able to easily pierce through it. If that man didn't have extremely powerful spirit equipment, then he would definitely be drilled into. As Xianxia stabbed down his arm, the ground shook a little. That man sensed a dangerous aura enveloping his body. However, he was still late by a beat. Xianxia could feel something hot and sticky on his hand as his hand penetrated the soil. As Xianxia immediately operated the engulfing devil technique, That deep and oppressive true qi immediately surged into his arm's meridians and spread throughout his body. This absorption speed was very fast. That man also rushed out of the ground, but Xianxia's arm remained in his victim's abdomen. That man had the appearance of an ordinary middle-aged man. However, his face had been completely contorted with pain and fear. He felt the continual loss of his true qi from his dantian. At the same time, pain but more frightening was the numbness that coursed through his body soon after. The numbness in his nerves rendered his entire body powerless. You're Xianxia. That man barely hissed out a few words. Xianxia didn't reply. He was suppressing that oppressive true qi surging into his body with all his concentration. Meanwhile, that man soon realized that Xianxia had seen the ambush. "How did you know?" That man strugglingly asked. He couldn't believe he had been ambushed. He was very confident in his concealment abilities. Xianxia still didn't reply and kept on madly extracting that man's true qi as his body gradually started shriveling up. However, he was still alive, albeit barely. "I've already extracted your power, so I'll let you die satisfied. I knew about extreme martial sects Elder Tan joining hands with the Lu family. I figured someone was planning to ambush me along the route Elder Tan gave me, so I just replied back in kind," Xianxia said with a sneer. That man had an indignant look. However, from the expression in his dying eyes was clear undisguised envy. Anyone following the devil path would be deadly jealous of Xianxia possessing a martial technique that could absorb other people's true qi. This was practically most yearned and sought after technique in the devil path sections. "Since you like hiding in the ground so much, then you can stay there forever." Xianxia mercilessly laughed as he ripped his hand back out before incinerating the dying assassin and covering him with soil. As Xianxia had just engulfed all the true qi from someone in 5th level true martial realm, he needed to quickly find a place to refine it. Although there was a lot of true qi, he would only receive 30 to 40% after refining it. This was because there were a ton of impurities inside absorbed true qi. Xianxia had to refine it many times before it was pure enough for him to integrate it into the 5 beast forms that resided in his dantian. After 3 days passed, Xianxia awoke. Before this, each divine beast form had 15 true element grains illuminated. However, now there was 17 illuminated true element grains in every beast form, a total increase of 10 grains. Although that man's true qi was quite vigorous, ultimately Xianxia could only integrate a small portion of it. After waking up, Xianxia continued to walk towards the mine. After walking for half an hour or so, he suddenly heard very familiar sound. "That's Yolan's voice." Xianxia rejoiced in his heart, while accelerating his footsteps. Lung Yolan's appearance was completely out of Xianxia's expectations. This made him somewhat doubtful, as well as anxious because he soon sensed Lung Yulan was actually fighting with someone else. Xianxia leapt onto the top of a tree. Suddenly a white-haired girl came into his view. Lung Yulan's white hair were like a hanging shawl. Her sharp, beautiful face filled was with pride and an aura of coldness. Her slightly knit curved eyebrows combined with a pair of shining pitch-black pupil excluded a majestic aura, which were now mainly focused on the several enemies in front of her. Even though she was wearing a mighty and domineering black armor, it could still not conceal her hot and mature figure. On her back laid a large sword. Altogether she was giving off an impression of maturity, elegance, tyranny, pride, which was filled with a bizarre kind of enchantment. Yulan seems to be less than 20-year-old, yet she is so stunning, Xianxia secretly praised. "White-haired demoness, you've been blocking our way again and again. Today we've gathered so many people. Ha ha ha, you're definitely going to die." While speaking, a man swung his sword towards Lung Yulan, hacking towards her as another 5 men also simultaneously launched their attacks. Xianxia was just about to jump in, but he suddenly felt an intense cold qi spreading out. An oppressive cold qi continuously overflowed from Lung Yulan's charming body. All around her body a few ice walls suddenly appeared, blocking the sword thrusts from those men. At the same time, Lung Yulan's figure disappeared. Soon he realized it was due to extremely high-speed movement. Xianxia remembered that Lung Yulan had told him before she specialized in speed. Xianxia could use his divine sense to grasp Leng Yulan's lingering trail. However, if he wanted to follow it, it would be highly improbable. With a flash of cold light, Leng Yulan appeared as she pulled out that huge and domineering giant sword on her back, cleanly cleaving a man into two. Shwa shwa shwa. Leng Yulan quickly hacked out and instantly beheading those in the middle of a freezing cold atmosphere. The frozen ground was now completely covered in warm blood, as it too soon froze into a beautiful scarlet ice. Xianxia took a deep breath. He didn't expect this girl to actually be so violent, however. He knew that Leng Yulan's father was a renowned general, and a very ruthless one at that. So it was also quite natural for Leng Yulan to be similar to her father. Still going to hide, quickly roll out. I don't mind killing another person. Leng Yulan coldly spoke. Her voice carried majesty and pride along with a cold and ruthless intention. Xianxia heaved a long sigh. Leng Yulan was actually in the 4th level of the true martial realm, with very rich true qi. Additionally, Leng Yulan also had a dual vein, the fire and ice heavenly vein, just a level lower than the divine vein. Just a moment ago, Leng Yulan was besieged by multiple 2nd-level true martial realm martial artists. However, she finished off everyone under 2-3 strikes. What made Xianxia lament was that she actually didn't even bat an eye while killing them. It was very barbaric. Xianxia flew from the trees into the sky, landing right in front of Leng Yulan and carefully observed her. He looked at that cold and proud stunning face, that barbaric white-haired beauty, whose whole body exuded a kind of wild body fragrance. Each and every part of her body was equally attractive. Along with her white hair, cold and proud temperament, peerless mature face, and proud and erect bosom, that could be clearly seen even though it was closely wrapped by the armor, made people unable to help themselves but take a couple of glances. Look again, and I will gouge out your eyes, Leng Yulan angrily shouted. Xianxia's eyes stayed on her for a long time, especially on her ample and erect bosom. Leng Yulan didn't recognize Xianxia. After posing a disguise, he took on the persona of a middle-aged man. When Leng Yulan and Xianxia met long ago, he was still just a young teenager. If not for you exuding a righteous aura, I would have already beheaded you. Who are you and what are doing here? You're not those soft bastards from the proud sword sect, Leng Yulan said as she glanced at the sword on Xianxia's waist. Xianxia glanced all around them, before revealing a smile. Yulan? It's me, Xianxia. This threw off Leng Yulan. After retreating a few steps, she took a closer look at Xianxia, and finally her eyes closed in on his eyes. Brother, is it really you? Leng Yulan still was in disbelief. She couldn't recognize Xianxia, although the voice sounded familiar and not many knew about the relation about her and Xianxia's relation. She still found it hard to believe, as such she still kept her guard up. Hey, that stupid crown prince injured you using poisonous needles. Afterwards I helped you, and also gave you a metal spirit fruit, asking you to go to the extreme martial sect. Xianxia laughed and said. Suddenly a stream of water appeared on his palm, washing off the makeup on his face, revealing an angular and handsome face. Brother! After seeing that face, Leng Yulan's eyes suddenly became moist. She fiercely threw herself into Xianxia's arms. Perhaps she was too happy. This stubborn, cold and proud white-haired beauty actually started crying. Little girl, why are you crying? Smile, smile. Xianxia laughed, while stroking that elegant face. Although they had not been together for long, they didn't know why, but both of them still missed each other very much. Leng Yulan wiped her tears and gave a slight smile. She looked very charming, like a rainbow after the rain, causing Xianxia to become absent-minded. Yulan, you grew up fine. Moreover, so formidable. Just a moment ago you couldn't wait to castrate me. Xianxia teased, making Leng Yulan slightly lowered her head. A rare blush appeared on that cold and proud face as she lightly spat in response. Xianxia grinned, while caressing that soft and beautiful white hair. He asked, Yulan, are you doing fine in the Icewind Valley? No one is bullying you there, right? Brother, I'm doing great. You don't have to worry about me. Leng Yulan revealed a sweet smile. Although she didn't appear to be like those cute smiling girls, she still looked extremely bewitching at this moment. That's good. Let's go to another place to talk. Xianxia looked at the bodies littered on the ground and squeezed her face. Leng Yulan nodded her head like an obedient little girl. In her heart she felt nothing but gratitude towards Xianxia. He had changed her fate. Otherwise she would not be so strong or even standing here today. Leng Yulan released some flames and burned those corpses, before grabbing Xianxia's hand, and going down a familiar route in the forest that led to a very secretive cave. Brother, when I heard the things about you, I was very worried. Originally I was planning to go to extreme martial sect to look for you, but the dean didn't let me. She said I wasn't strong enough. Leng Yulan gave Xianxia some light flowery and fragrant wine. Xianxia didn't expect Leng Yulan to literally get drunk in happiness. Xianxia smiled. Yulan, you better get stronger first. Brother can handle his stuff. There's no need to worry about me. Leng Yulan naughtily stuck out her tongue. Only in front of Xianxia would she turn into a normal girl. Humph, brother is so good to me. Again and again you've sent me building foundation, Dawn. In this valley there were many greedy people, I just wanted help brother out somehow. Leng Yulan was a very strong-willed girl. She didn't want to be Xianxia's little guarded sister all day. She had always been elevating her strength in order to help Xianxia out one day, even though she knew Xianxia was very formidable by himself. Xianxia smiled and said, "Is that why you came here? To help the extreme martial sect in fending off those devil path martial artists?" Leng Yulan nodded her head. The Proud Sword sect are working hand in hand with the devil path martial artists to get rid of the extreme martial sect's members who have been mining here for the last 10 years. Xianxia frowned. He had already guessed this matter had another hidden matter behind it. Is this true? Xianxia asked. It's true. I've been here for 2 months now and have overheard Devil Yang clan disciples talking with Proud Sword sect disciples. Not only that, according to our dean, there has been infighting among the Proud Sword sect for a good number of years. One side had colluded with the Devil Yang clan, which should be headed by the northern supervisor of the Proud Sword sect. However, there was no evidence whatsoever, so my dean could not act. Leng Yulan replied. Xianxia observed some of the stones in the illuminated cave and said, Yulan, you've been staying here alone for 2 months. It must not have been easy. That's nothing compared to what I faced during cultivation. Now that was far worse. Leng Yulan replied as if it had nothing to do with her, then grinned. Brother, I'm definitely more formidable than you now. I'm in the 4th level of the true martial realm. Moreover, I have the fire and ice divine vein. However, in order to protect me, Dean declared I just have the fire and ice heavenly vein to the outside. Xianxia was stunned by this revelation, and even Su Meiyao along with Bai Yuyu exclaimed again and again. Leng Yulan actually had the fire and ice divine vein. No wonder she managed to advance so quickly. Xianxia took out a piece of the earth core divine fruit pulp and passed it over to Leng Yulan, who just ate it with no formalities. Yulan, nothing can be said to be absolute. Although I'm only in the 2nd level of the true martial realm, if I were to fight you... Hey, Xianxia said with a laugh. After eating the earth core divine fruit, Leng Yulan frowned before sweetly smiling. Brother, this is good stuff. She closed her eyes and took a slight breather before reopening her eyes. Xianxia was surprised for a moment. Even if it was Elder Dan or Gu Dongqin, those Nirvana Realm tycoons, they took a good several days to refine the earth core divine fruit pulp. However, Leng Yulan had finished refining it in practically an instant. Yulan, did you not refine it? Xianxia asked. I'm refining it. It's just my fire and ice true chi is very special. It can self-refine and then integrate that power into my body. Leng Yulan once again poured Xianxia a glass of that fragrant wine. Brother, you say you're better than me? How about a fight then? Leng Yulan clenched her jade fists and asked with a look of excitement. Xianxia didn't expect his own sworn sister to actually be so bellicose. No need to be so anxious. Let me first deal with the things here first. Once I'm done, I'll take you to extreme martial sect to play, Xianxia said with a smile. He had such a powerful sister here. Xianxia suddenly felt a lot more relaxed. And even if the dean came to stop me, I would still follow you to the extreme martial sect, Leng Yulan excitedly said. Is your dean female? Xianxia asked. Yes, however I've never seen her face before. She's the same as your extreme martial sect's elder Dan, wearing a mask all the time. When I went to the extreme martial sect, it was Elder Dan who recommended me to the dean. Afterwards, she took me straight to Icewind Valley. She is very good to me, and it seems that the relationship between her and the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire's Empress are pretty good. Last time, it was exactly the Empress who sent the building foundation Dan. Brother, I didn't expect your fiancé to be Xianxia. While speaking the last sentence, there was a sliver of jealousy in Len Yulan's voice. When Xianxia thought of Elder Dan, the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire Empress, Lu Menger, the Icewind Valley Dean, and the Dean of Danxiang Taoyuan, these 4 female tycoons, Xianxia forcefully smiled. Among these 4 individuals, 3 were tycoons of powerful forces from 3 different regions, while Elder Dan can be regarded as one of the tycoons of the extreme martial sect. Not to mention all 4 of them were females. Except for Lu Menger of the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire, the other 3 were all very mysterious. What's more, there seemed to be close relations between all of them. The Vain Mind by the extreme martial sect is currently surrounded and under siege from the Devil Yang clan's disciples. But your extreme martial sect's members are not so easy to deal with. Currently, the mind still hasn't been compromised. The Devil Yang clan also do not dare to be too overbearing. They know their fates will not be good if they angered the extreme martial sect. I've been dealing with the Devil Yang clan, and would occasionally butcher a few. However, Leng Yulan had never expected she would encounter Xianxia here. Brother, if we want to settle this thing well, we need to have the strength of 6th level of the true martial realm at the very least. But only you, someone who's only a 2nd level of the true martial realm martial artist, was sent. What's going on? Also, you do not have any other companions? Leng Yulan asked with a serious look. Xianxia sneered and replied, One guy wants to kill me, but... He quickly informed Leng Yulan of the ongoing and recent matters, minus the engulfing part of course. Brother, you are truly insidious, Leng Yulan exclaimed. You actually killed a 5th level true martial realm martial artist. He should be one of the commanders that I've seen before. Xianxia very arrogantly said, Lu Shang, that true 9th true martial realm martial artist, was also killed by me. What does a mere 5th level true martial realm count for? That does not count. You relied on the force of lighting. Moreover, it was very dangerous, Leng Yulan said in a tender voice. At this time, those pair of beautiful eyes were full of battle lust. She could not wait to have a bout with her elder brother. Xianxia just laughed off Leng Yulan's will to fight. He touched Leng Yulan's face and said, I'm going to enter the mine and get rid of those guys. Are you going to come with me? Leng Yulan stared at Xianxia and that handsome face of his. She could not help but extend her beautiful hand to touch it. She replied with a grin, if anyone said so. I'll definitely call them a fool for going to seek death. But if elder brother is not afraid to die, how can I, your litter sister, chicken out? Xianxia smiled and asked, You're really not afraid? Of course not. Let's go right now. I have always been thinking of roaming the world together with you. This is my heartfelt desire. Leng Yulan placed that big sword on her back and left. Leng Yulan spoke to leave and then instantly left, truly decisive. Xianxia followed her out of the cave and into the forest, cautiously walking. At this time, Leng Yulan was very excited. It really was her heartfelt wish to be with Xianxia. Yulan, originally, I was planning to go to Icewind Valley to find you. You being here was totally out my expectations. I'm very happy. I always wanted to contact you, but couldn't. Xianxia said in a low voice. I've been forced into closed-door training by the dean. She is very strict on me. If not for that, how could I be this powerful at such a young age? She wanted me to advance quickly so that I could cope with the oncoming storm. Otherwise, I could easily lose my life at that time, Leng Yulan said. A great storm. Xianxia suddenly thought of the great battle between the 3 heavenly realms. Remembering this, Xianxia's entire body was drenched in cold sweat. The extreme martial sect had just went through major changes. This could very likely in preparation for this great storm. Gu Dongchen and Wu Kaming might also have known about this major upcoming event. Every 100,000 years, the three heavenly realms would converge together and form a passage, signifying the start of the great battle. And, Yulan, you have to cultivate even more seriously. That tremendous storm is extremely frightening. The extreme martial sect has just started preparations for that very storm. I'll give you some building foundation, Dawn. Xianxia said in a heavy tone. No need, building foundation, Dawn, are not very useful to me. The reason for my fast cultivation are not building foundation, Dawn, but instead because of my divine veins and the place where I cultivate as well the brutal techniques. Brother, you should leave them for yourself. Lung Yulan felt very grateful for Xianxia's help, and she has always been thinking about how to repay him. However, contrary to her wish, she simply had no idea how to. It could said that Xianxia didn't lack anything. After all, he was a level 4 alchemist. Xianxia and Lung Yulan hid inside the forest, observing the wall far away in the wilderness. Because the crystal stone mine was very important, the extreme martial sect had surrounded the mine with thick and high walls. Xianxia didn't expect for there to such a large structure and so deep inside the forest too. He also noticed there were many tents erected just in front of the gate, where many people were walking around. Those were all Devil Yang clan disciples. Furthermore, there were a lot. They actually dared to camp directly in front of the entrance. There's a total of 100 or so Devil Yang clan disciples. They're relatively stronger than the true martial realm martial artists from the extreme martial sect, which is why they're so bold. Lung Yulan explained. She tightly grabbed Xianxia's hand. She was suddenly worried that he would immediately rush over, which would be extremely dangerous. Yulan, there's no need to worry about me. Xianxia smiled. I'm not worried about you, just afraid that you will act recklessly. Lung Yulan had been staying here for 2 months now, and she had some understanding regarding these Devil Yang clan disciples. If the Devil Yang clan wasn't strong enough, she would have already massacred them all. In her heart, she believed that no matter what, Xianxia was currently weaker than her. Xianxia pulled out a black bow and mischievously smiled. Yulan, do you know what this is? Looking at that bow, Lung Yulan was slightly stunned before exclaiming in a low voice, Demanding life devil bow. I heard that brother got it after killing a disciples from the 100 Poison sect. But wasn't brother injured by Liao Xiaoyun from the true martial sect soon after, who also took away the bow? Xianxia laughed and said, Correct. But Liao Xiaoyun gave it to his apprentice. After I killed his apprentice, I reclaimed it. You should have heard about the true martial sect and the beast martial sect coming to create trouble during the grand tournament of our extreme martial sect. Lung Yulan nodded her head. At that time, Xianxia made a magnificent appearance, won 3 competitions and even handed the Lu family genius a miserable loss. Not to mention ruthlessly defeating the 2 people who came to create trouble during the martial arts competition. It was exactly in such a way that the extreme martial sect broke all relations with the true martial sect and beast martial sect. Afterwards, Xianxia killed a 3rd-level true martial realm martial artist in the Black Tortoise Mountain, and did many similar things inside it. Although Lung Yulan never left Icewind Valley, the information still reached her. She could see how big Xianxia's reputation was. Lung Yulan was very proud to have such a brother, and Xianxia also loved her very dearly. He even sent her those precious building foundation Dawn. Brother, what are you going to do? Lung Yulan asked. With the help of powerful divine sense from the little dragoness on Xianxia's arm, he was able to learn the cultivation level of the people hidden inside the tents. 1/5 level true martial realm, 3/3 level true martial realm, 5 second level true martial realm, 10 first level true martial realm, while the rest of them are mortal martial realm martial artist. I'll use this bow to kill the 3/3 level true martial realm martial artists, and then deal with the 5th level true martial realm martial artist after. I'll leave the rest of the minions to you, Xianxia said, then aimed at a tent. Wait, I'll deal with that 5th level true martial realm martial artist. Brother, you go deal with those minions. Lung Yulan hastily said. No can do, I'll deal with him, Xianxia exhorted. For him, a 5th level true martial realm martial artist was trivial. After all, he had the black tortoise adamantal armor. He was naturally fearless of someone in the 5th level of the true martial realm. However, Leng Yulan was different. Brother, leave him for me. I've been inside the Icewind Valley and didn't get to do anything I wanted to. If I can't beat him, you can help me. Leng Yulan held Chen Xiang's arm and flirtatiously said. Chen Xiang felt his own arm caught between two soft lumps, as a tint of red appeared on his face. Okay, but you have to remember, don't try to act brave. Leng Yulan gave a smile, nodded her head, and gave Chen Xiang a kiss on his cheeks, making him somewhat startled. Looking at the flushed Chen Xiang, Leng Yulan giggled and said, Brother, you are really shy. Chen Xiang knocked on her head, smiled and said, You know you just molested your pure brother. Leng Yulan released Chen Xiang's arm and returned to her previous serious look, becoming wary of her surroundings. Chen Xiang raised the demanding life devil bow and aimed at one of the tents, laughing in a low voice. These guys are very noble. Every one of them have their own tents. Truly heaven is helping me. A 3rd-ranked 7th-level spirit weapon. Finally, I'll able to see how powerful this thing is. Leng Yulan was also very much in anticipation of the upcoming fight. Chen Xiang smiled and said, I rarely use this thing. Wait for me to finish dealing with these guys, then I'll give it to you. While speaking, Chen Xiang poured his universal true qi into the demanding life devil bow, as a black arrow suddenly appeared. Chen Xiang aimed with his divine sense at the devil yang true qi inside the tent. As he released the devil bowstring, a black arrow shot into that tent in the blink of an eye. Chen Xiang aimed directly at that man's dantian. After the arrow from the demanding life devil bow entered his body, a powerful true qi broke out, destroying everything inside that man's body in the blink of an eye. Completely silent and very ruthless. Not to mention Chen Xiang had also used that frightening universal true qi, which made the arrow even more formidable, which made it possible to take the life of a 3rd-level true martial realm martial artist in the blink of an eye. Very formidable. Brother can stir up too much trouble. It's better you leave it for yourself. Leng Yulan lightly smiled. Although she knew the bow was very precious, she felt leaving it to Chen Xiang would keep him safer. Good sister. I'll visit the divine weapon Heavenly Empire and make Xianxia's teacher help you forge a good weapon, Chen Xiang said. While enjoying the view with smiling white-haired beauty, Chen Xiang shot another arrow, killing off another 3rd-level true martial realm martial artist. Now Chen Xiang came to know why this demanding life devil bow was placed 3rd among all 7th-level spirit weapons, and why it was called the devil bow. It was very powerful. True Qi became even more powerful after passing through the special spirit array on the devil bow. Leng Yulan also endlessly praised the shot. With a charming smile she said, Brother, the dean said she will help me get a powerful large sword. It's just that she has not found all the materials yet. Right, brother? Xianxia is equally as famous as me. You say who is more beautiful between me and her? This question made Chen Xiang sweat. He laughed and said, Damn girl. Why are you making things difficult for me? Both of you are equally beautiful. Leng Yulan sweetly smiled. Her smile was very charming. Chen Xiang didn't expect this cold and proud as well as mature and stunning white-haired beauty to actually have such a cute side. You better call her sister-in-law. Chen Xiang laughed and said while shooting another arrow. As such, 3 3rd-level true martial realm martial artists had been killed. If these 3 Devil Yang clan disciples came to learn that they were shot to death by a brat who was also laughing with a beauty, they would definitely turn in their graves. No, that would make her sound older. She seems only a little older than me, so I'll just call her sister. Leng Yulan acted spoiled because she was very happy to be together with Chen Xiang. She could act freely around him, while she would always take a domineering appearance in front of other people. That was because she was very hesitant towards others, and that was her self-protection mechanism. Assassinated without any sound or breath, which had allowed Chen Xiang to effortlessly complete half of his mission. Of course, if he shot a 4th or 5th level true martial realm martial artist, he could not guarantee that he would not be detected. That's why only after dealing with these weaker disciples did he intend to shoot that 5th level true martial realm martial artist. This way, he and Leng Yulan would face less danger during the battle with that strong devil path martial artist. Xianxia easily dealt with the 3 third-level true martial realm Devil Yang clan disciples, but he still didn't move out at this point. He continued to shoot those 5 second-level true martial realm martial artists instead. Anyway, it was a very easy thing to do, and it would allow him to save a lot of troublesome stuff he would have to deal with in the end. Yulan, do you know what's the relationship between the Empress of the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire and your Dean? Xianxia asked, while aiming at a relatively farther tent, once again shooting another arrow. I don't know, every time she comes. She is very mysterious, same when she leaves. I don't even know when she arrives or leaves. The Dean is also mysterious, we can't see her frequently, and generally Icewind Valley is managed by the elders. I've been in the Icewind Valley for such a long time, yet I've met with the Dean no more than 20 times. Lung Yulan replied. She too was full of uncertainty, and very curious about this matter. Xianxia was not surprised, because Danxiang Taoyuan's Dean and Elder Dan were also like this, completely unfathomable and mysterious. Elder Dan was still good, at least she made frequent appearances. However, Danxiang Taoyuan's Dean and Icewind Valley's Dean were both completely shrouded in mystery and very rarely went out. All of them were females, not to mention tycoons of their respective influences. In the end, why were they concealing themselves in such a way? According to Elder Dan, she did so in order to protect herself, as she had the purple moonfire spirit. More specifically, she was worried about getting caught by the fire spirit seekers. Was the Icewind Valley's Dean and the Danxiang Taoyuan's Dean also doing the same for similar reasons? Did both of them have a fire spirit? Or some other kind of powerful thing? In a matter of few seconds, the 5 second-level true martial realm marshal of the Devil Yang clan were also silently dealt with by Xianxia. After resting for a bit, Xianxia spoke in a heavy tone. Yulan, are you ready? I'm going to attack the 5th level true martial realm martial artist. If I could not kill that guy, you need to attack. Lung Yulan's jade-like hands were already on the hilt of that big sword on her back. She had a dead serious look. She was done with her preparations. Xianxia poured a lot of universal true qi into the demanding life devil bow. Only after the bow could not absorb any more true qi did he shoot the arrow. That arrow was rather big. After Xianxia shot it into a relatively larger tent, it only shook a little before a thunderous roar came from inside. Suddenly, a burly guy shot out from the top of the tent, jumped up into the air, holding a black broadsword and roared again and again in anger. Which mongrel secretly plotted again this father? Quickly roll out, that burly man shouted. Followed closely after by that man roars, close to 100 people from also came out from the tent. While Lung Yulan fiercely pulled out that big sword on her back with a cold shout, single-handedly clasping that domineering giant sword. She appeared even more valiant and fierce, even more wild. White-haired demoness, you again. That man just finished his sentence before Lung Yulan's figure disappeared. In the blink of an eye, she appeared tens of zhang beyond, with both hands holding that sword, fiercely cleaved towards that man. Cold qi burst out and suddenly covered the entrance. However, just after that cold qi appeared, a sudden rush of heat burst out, making people very uncomfortable. Most terrifying was the fusion of that hot and cold qi, which formed a very peculiar true qi, which made everyone present feel an indescribable uncomfortableness. That strike of Lung Yulan was extremely overbearing, however, that ruthless strike was blocked by a black broadsword. Yet an explosive sound burst out, as a fissure suddenly appeared on that man's broadsword. Seeing this, Xianxia was completely dumbfounded. After the fusion of fire and ice true qi, the true qi actually became so terrifying. It was very difficult to imagine such a girl was actually capable of releasing such an overbearing true qi, not to mention after the true qi impact a very fierce explosion was also produced. Lung Yulan's 4th level of the true martial realm strength was actually comparable with someone in the 5th level true martial realm, who also belonged to the Devil Yang clan. Although she was holding a large sword, her sword techniques were very nimble and elegant. Whoever looking upon this scene had a strange feeling. Of course, her speed was also very terrifying. She suddenly disappeared again and reappeared behind that man, making it very hard to keep track of her movements. That man was able to reach the 5th level of the true martial realm, so of course he was not a vegetarian. Although he was suppressed by Leng Yulan, he was still able to resist her attacks. Leng Yulan's speed was very hard to follow, but he had a very rich true qi. He would always release a true qi shield just at the right time to resist Leng Yulan's quick blows. This man has been waiting for those 2nd and 3rd level true martial realm martial artists to arrive. He originally believed he would be able to relax soon. However, after waiting for such a long time, they were still nowhere to be seen. Only 10 first-level true martial realm and a large group of mortal martial realm disciples rushed over. All of them were very weak, just coming close to Leng Yulan's overbearing true qi would result in them being blown away. Xianxia realized Leng Yulan was extremely formidable and was devoid of any further worries. Without any further scruples, Xianxia pulled out the iron sword on his waist and arrived in front of that group of disciples after a few jumps. With shwa 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 sounds, he waved the long sword in his hand, along with sword chi fluctuations. Endless sword shadows appeared as he poured a deep and terrifying true chi into the long sword, turning that ordinary sword into a divine weapon of slaughter. In a short span of time, numerous 10th-level mortal martial realm disciples were beheaded. The true martial realm disciples noticed Xianxia was extremely formidable and immediately retreated. While battling with Leng Yulan, that man madly shouted a few names. Xianxia guessed those were people who had just died under his devil bow. No matter how that man shouted, no one else came out from the tents. During the battle, the tents were blown away from the chi waves. At this point, that man had to accept that all those people were already dead. This made him extremely furious. He fiercely slashed towards Leng Yulan in anger, but she easily dodged the attack, which made that man even more angry as well as extremely anxious. Xianxia had been surrounded by a group of disciples. All of them were 10th-level mortal martial realm along with 1st-level true martial realm martial artists. But in Xianxia's eyes they were nothing more than ants. "Everyone together!" a middle-aged man yelled. He had just taken a step forward, when suddenly a golden light overflowed from Xianxia's arm. He quickly jabbed towards the large group, as a huge fist formed from golden true qi came crashing towards them. A suffocating slaughter qi also suddenly appeared and enshrouded those people's heart, making them fall into a deadly fear. Xianxia punched out fist after fist, as intense qi waves burst out like storm, and swept towards that group while scraping off a thick layer of soil. As those fists struck those people, they were blasted completely into smithereens. Like billowing thunder, thunderous sound shook everything. It was extremely terrifying. The wall was already filled with people watching as they dumbfoundingly stared down at that sharp assault from a boy and a girl duo. Although the true chi's attribute of both of them was different, they were equally overbearing and mighty, sweeping away all obstacles in their path. Piercing, blood-curdling screams echoed in the mountains, making everyone feel jittery. Xianxia's attacks were very vicious. Each punch was a white tiger divine fist filled with immense slaughter chi. Not only were those struck killed by the explosions, even those remnant chi waves caused many to become heavily injured. Was this the strength of a super-strong martial artist? Those people standing on the walls looked at those terrifying and brutal punches from Xianxia in wonder. Each fist strike would cause the victim to vanish into a puff of smoke. This kind of strength made them all gasp with shock. At the same time, they were also secretly excited in their hearts because someone had finally come to rescue them. Those Devil Yang clan disciples suddenly felt they simply didn't deserve to be called Devil Sect disciples. In their eyes, Xianxia's existence was akin to Devil God. Many 10th-level mortal martial realm disciples wet their pants in fear from the brutal punches coming from Xianxia. Now, the entrance outside the mine not only had the lingering smell of blood, there was also a belch of foul stench. Now, less than 30 disciples were left from the original pack of almost 100 people. These remaining few started fleeing in fear, while madly uttering piercing screams. Xianxia didn't attack them, yet those people still continued to let out sharp screams from fear. Seeing those people fleeing, Xianxia didn't chase them down. All the true martial realm martial artists had been killed by him, only those 10th-level mortal martial realm raw away. Regarding them, he was not a bit worried. He looked at faraway place, that was transmitting tremors one after another. There, Leng Yulan had been fighting with the last remaining man. Xianxia had always been paying attention to their fight. It was unknown how many strikes Leng Yulan hacked out. Her attacks had always been either blocked or dodged by the other party. However, she was very tolerant and patient, and had very rich battle experience. She knew she had to remain calm, despite the vicious words that man cursed at her with. It was as if his words were nothing but the wind. Her strength was basically evenly matched with that man's. She didn't have any leeway to make any mistakes. Otherwise she would lose the battle. An opportunity came. Leng Yulan suddenly saw that man was a little bit slower. That extremely little bit of difference allowed her to cut that man's arm as he let out a miserable howl. Taking advantage of that man roaring in pain, Leng Yulan hacked out another sword strike. In the blink of an eye she disappeared, and appeared behind that man. She thrusted her giant sword extremely swiftly. It appeared like a beam of light as it flew towards her opponent. That giant sword-cold chi was closely followed by a release of hot chi, turning into a strange unique type of true chi that emitted crackling sounds. This kind of true chi was poured into that big sword, and thrusted into that man's body, appearing out the other end. Furthermore, it also produced a small explosion, blowing apart that man's upper body. As Leng Yulan waved her jade-like hands, a group of flames fell on that man's corpse, turning it into ash. Only at this point did she heave a sigh. While panting, she arrived in front of Xianxia. This made those people standing on the wall once again tremble with fear. A girl could actually brutally murder someone in such a cruel and merciless way. Xianxia took a handkerchief and wiped away the sweat on Leng Yulan's face. With a grin he said, "Tyrannical princess, you truly don't fight like a girl. Brother, I'm formidable, right? I killed a 5th-level true martial realm martial artist." Leng Yulan proudly smiled and said, "Not as much as I. If it was me, I would not have taken such a long time." Xianxia squeezed her face and smiled. "I don't believe you. Why don't we have a bout then?" Leng Yulan immediately retorted, as a glint appeared in her pretty eyes. Xianxia shook his head, then smiled and said, "Now is not the time. Things are still not finished." While speaking, he looked up towards those people standing on the wall, hugged Leng Yulan's waist and took a light leap, jumping onto that around 20 zhang high wall. "Don't worry. I'm from the extreme martial sect. I want to see the person in charge here," Xianxia said, while releasing Leng Yulan. Those people were still immersed in shock from the previous massacre. When Xianxia, this slaughtering god, suddenly leapt towards them, they were scared shitless as they immediately retreated a few steps. Xianxia scooped out a medal from his pocket, which was the proof of an extreme martial sect disciple's identity. These people were skeptical about Xianxia being from the Proud Sword sect, but they didn't expect Xianxia would turn out to be from the extreme martial sect, or that the extreme martial sect had such a ruthless individual. "Hey, don't you know me? I helped you. Are you doubting me too?" Leng Yulan's stunning face turned completely ice-cold. "Of course we recognize you, cold demoness. We have long heard of your name," one guy hastily replied. Leng Yulan was indeed very famous here, because she would often come to Frozen Sword City to inquire about Xianxia. Also, Icewind Valley was close in proximity, and she would sometimes also do some good deeds on the way there and back. Plus, she had such dazzling white hair as well as stunning appearance, with thunder-like violence and wind-like swiftness. It would not be hard to imagine for her not to be this famous. Xianxia was currently in disguise. These people didn't recognize him, and he too didn't reveal his name. He feared if he revealed his whereabouts, he would provoke unnecessary trouble. Xianxia and Leng Yulan followed a man and from a cave entered the mine. Inside there were many tunnels, which could also play a protective role. Xianxia and Leng Yulan arrived at a very bright stone room where they saw a middle-aged with pale complexion. With one glance, anyone could tell he was injured. "Dan Yuan?" Xianxia asked, as that middle-aged man nodded his head in response. Prior to coming here, Xianxia had already learned from Elder Tan that the protector of the mine was a 5th-level true martial realm martial artist called Dan Yuan. However, now that he was injured, Xianxia took out a box with the white jade Dan and handed it over to help Dan Yuan recover. Dan Yuan gratefully said, I just heard some commotion outside. It seems a fight occurred. What happened? Dan Yuan recognized Leng Yulan. Furthermore, he had already asked the extreme martial sect for help. He knew that someone had arrived to help them. Chun Xiang replied, the matter is resolved, but I can't guarantee no one will come again. This matter should be the work of the Devil Yang clan and the Proud Sword sect colluding with each other. I need to inform the inner sect elder and ask them to send more people to resolve this issue. Suddenly, a man ran in and said, Boss Yuan, disciples from the Proud Sword sect have arrived outside. They say they want to talk with you. Dan Yuan was slightly surprised for a moment before speaking, We'll go out. In his eyes, Chun Xiang was even stronger than him, otherwise he would not be able to get rid of all those Devil Yang clan disciples. Is the Proud Sword sect people intending to interfere in this matter? Chun Xiang asked. Actually, no. As a matter of fact, the Proud Sword sect is in chaos from infighting. They don't have any spare time to manage others. However, one of the leaders of the Proud Sword sect is in collusion with the Devil Yang clan. They have no choice but to come. Although the Proud Sword sect is proud, they don't want to carry the blame of being in collusion with the Devil sect. Leng Yulan replied. Chun Xiang and others arrived in a relatively simple hall inside the cave. They saw several people with swords slung around their waists, with their scabbards was covered in gems, shining with a dazzling aura, dressed in gorgeous clothes, with faces full of arrogance. All of them in teens. With just one glance, it was evident they were all Proud Sword sect disciples. Dan Yuan, we meet again, a young man dismissively said. Seeing Dan Yuan arrive, the young man didn't even stand up, and just remained sitting there with an extremely arrogant air. Seeing this, Chun Xiang and Leng Yulan were very unhappy. Dan Yuan was also somewhat annoyed, but he often dealt with the Proud Sword sect disciples, so he had long become accustomed to it. Leng Yulan. That young man suddenly saw the white-haired beauty behind Dan Yuan, and could not help but exclaim, Gan Zhujian, what are you doing here? Leng Yulan coldly replied with a cold look. It was crystal clear she held a very offensive stance against this young man called Gan Zhujian. Chun Xiang sized up that Gan Zhujian, although he was handsome, his level arrogance would make others find him disgusting. Gan Zhujian didn't pay any attention to Chun Xiang because he currently looked like an ordinary middle-aged man. Currently, all of Gan Zhujian's attention was on Leng Yulan's body. The other 4 Proud Sword sect disciples were also doing the same. Although the hall was simple, it was still brightly lit. It was not hard to see Leng Yulan was very unhappy. She didn't like anyone looking at her so unscrupulously. Of course, Chun Xiang was an exception. Worthy of the famous heroine's reputation, you managed to deal with more than 100 Devil Yang clan disciples, Gan Zhujian said. A sliver of surprise flashed through his eyes. All of them believed that it was all because of Leng Yulan. Gan Zhujian, did you just come here just to speak bullshit? I find you disgusting. Now that you are finished with shitting, get out. Leng Yulan didn't give any face to Gan Zhujian and loudly shouted. This made Chun Xiang secretly laugh. Leng Yulan's acting style was very bold. Even in her speech, she was extremely rude. Gan Zhujian was shocked for a moment. His complexion became very ugly. Afterwards, he looked at Dan Yuan and said, Dan Yuan, I'm also not going to be long-winded. Although Leng Yulan helped you divert this crisis, the Devil Yang clan had still not laid down their weapons. As long as you are willing to share this mine together with us, we, the Proud Sword sect, will guarantee your safety. Chun Xiang and the others immediately frowned. The Proud Sword sect gave them a bare-naked threat. Just as Dan Yuan was about to refuse, he heard Chun Xiang coldly shout, Absolutely not. Gan Zhujian looked at Chun Xiang and sneered. Where did this Minon come from? Can't you see we're talking? Who allowed this kind of lowly guy to interrupt? Gan Zhujian just spoke till here before his complexion underwent a rapid change. Chun Xiang had suddenly disappeared. Although Gan Zhujian's response was pretty quick, he was still slow by a beat, and a gust of wind flew past him as everyone clearly heard the sound of a sharp slap, followed almost instantly by another. Chun Xiang had just ruthlessly slapped and then backhanded Gan Zhujian. Gan Zhujian's cheeks were numb from the pain as he flew out of the chair. While blood appeared from the corner of his mouth, Xianxia started off with a very heavy hand. You. Gan Jujin was speechless. In the blink of an eye, someone had given him 2 slaps in the face. If his opponent wished, he could cut off his head instead in the blink of an eye. This kind of strength was beyond his by an extremely large margin. I'll fight to the death with you. Our proud sword sect disciples absolutely cannot be insulted. Gan Jujin suddenly retreated a few steps. His face was brimming with anger. At this point, he slowly pulled out a long sword shining in cold light from that dazzling scabbard. Once the sword was out of the scabbard, slaughter chi suddenly filled that small hall, making everyone extremely scared. Proud blood sword. Ranked first in 7th level spirit weapons. Lung Yulan exclaimed, as she hurried to Xianxia's side. Gan Jujin saw Lung Yulan and Xianxia acting pretty intimate and became even more angry. Gan Jujin sneered and said, "Let's finish this one and for all." 4th level true martial realm. Xianxia coldly said. Correct. I'm in 4th level of the true martial realm, and only 25 years old this year. Gan Jujin proudly replied. Yulan, you step back. I'll take on this guy. Let him know that there's always someone better than you. Xianxia raised the corner of his mouth, as a smirk appeared on his face. Humph! Gan Jujin snorted. I admit you're somewhat better than me, but if I use this sword, you'll definitely be defeated. Lung Yulan was a little worried, however. She still withdrew. In this small hall there were a lot of people present. All of them were secretly curious why Lung Yulan, from Icewind Valley, had such an intimate relations with someone from the extreme martial sect, considering the distance between the two. Gan Jujin brandished his sword and took a step forward, arriving in front of Xianxia. The proud blood sword in Gan Jujin's hand released a piercing slaughter chi as it flew down like a thunderbolt towards Xianxia. The instant the electric light shone, with scattering sparks. Everyone only heard Xianxia utter a contemptuous sneer, before the sudden appearance of an azure aura that sculled across that proud blood sword shining with a cold light. Dang! With a brittle sound, the proud blood sword split in 2 to everyone's shock. At the same time, a true chi filled with majesty enshrouded the little hall. A golden aura burst out from Xianxia's left fist, and an even more overbearing and terrifying chi aura burst out. Xianxia's left fist was like a golden dragon, strict and solemn, with a soaring, dominating aura. Dragon Aura Fist. Xianxia once again casted the dragon martial technique. Although this kind of dragon martial technique was a low-rank one in the eyes of his teacher, Huang Jitian, it was still extremely overbearing. After Xianxia broke Gan Jujin's pride, the proud blood sword with a blade strike, he instantly jabbed a dragon aura fist towards Gan Jujin. Once the dragon aura fist was released, it was like a mad dragon roaring at the heavens. It was extremely frightening. It shone with an imposing aura, which made those onlookers drown in fear. Puff blood sprayed out from Gan Jujin's mouth like an arrow, as the violent fist struck on his body. He suddenly shot back, heavily colliding with the stone wall behind him, creating a human crater. The proud blood sword was cut apart while it wasn't even clear whether the victim of Xianxia's punch was alive or dead. Xianxia's strength deeply shocked those disciples from the proud sword sect. Lung Yulan's pretty eyes were also wide open from shock. In surprise, she looked at that tall figure of Xianxia. She had always been conceited about her own strength compared with Xianxia's, but now she realized there was still some distance between her and her brother. At least she could not so casually defeat the most youngest genius of the proud sword sect. You are Xianxia? Gan Jujin laid on the ground while constantly spewing blood, and, with a look of dismay, stared at the domineering and mighty azure dragon slaughtering devil blade in Xianxia's hand. That threatening azure dragon on the blade's body made him breathless with fear. A moment ago, he felt as if he was attacked by an angry dragon. This guy turned out to be Xianxia. Not only were the disciples of the proud sword sect alarmed, even those people from the extreme martial sect were extremely surprised. All of them had a shocked and respectful expression in their eyes as they looked at Xianxia. Your intelligence is not bad, but you have too little practical experience, too impetuous, and far too proud. Your sect is also the same, and because of that it's fading away. Take this and leave. The next time I see you, I hope you'll bring along someone with some ability. Chun Xiang threw a box with white jade Dan to Ganjujin. Chun Xiang was recognized as the youngest expert of the extreme martial sect. While only in his early 20s, he had done a lot of earth-shattering things. Many forces had offered a tremendous reward for him. To be exact, a total of 10 million crystal stones. Not to mention, he was also a level 4 alchemist. The Proud Sword sect disciples mainly used swords, and if they didn't have their swords, they would be significantly weaker. That's why after Chun Xiang broke Ganjujin's sword, he was completely spiritless, and taking advantage of that moment, Chun Xiang blasted a fist, heavily wounding Ganjujin. However, when Chun Xiang attacked, he still had a sense of proportion. Otherwise, Ganjujin would already been crippled. Go back and tell your Proud Sword sect's higher executives to never threaten our extreme martial sect again. My extreme martial sect isn't afraid to break relations with another sect, and if you don't want my extreme martial sect to intervene in your Proud Sword sect internal conflicts, get rid of that northern guy who's colluding with the devil sect as soon as is possible, Chun Xiang coldly said. It looked as if he was same as a top official from the extreme martial sect. Whether his imposing manner or his tone, all were very much like those top figures. That was natural, after all, he was the young martial uncle of the 3 tycoons of the extreme martial sect. He would frequently put on airs in front of those tycoons, although he did so in secret. Ganjujin crushed that white jade Dan box that Chun Xiang had offered. Ganjujin clenched his teeth and said, Chun Xiang, Ganjujin, will not rest until you're dead. Let's go. The Proud Sword sect disciples supported Ganjujin, picked up that fragmented sword, and hastily left. Humph, he doesn't know what's good for him, Lung Yulan lightly snorted and said. Afterwards, she looked at the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade in Chun Xiang's hand. That giant blade was Chun Xiang's signature weapon. It was known to be more formidable than any spirit weapon. Brother, your blade is very formidable. Can you let me take a look? Lung Yulan curiously asked. It was a brilliant level equipment that was rare commodity even for the extreme state martial artists. Chun Xiang chuckled and handed the blade over. As soon as Lung Yulan grabbed the azure dragon's slaughtering devil blade, she suddenly let out a tender shout. She almost could not keep it from falling down onto the ground because it was too heavy. In Chun Xiang's hands, it was tens of thousands of jin in weight, while in anyone else's, it was even more heavy, at least hundreds of thousands of jin. Lung Yulan still could not raise the blade, and after looking at it for a while, she handed it back to Chun Xiang. She knew he often used this blade to kill every enemy around him. Such a heavy equipment was actually used so nimbly by Chun Xiang. This made Lung Yulan secretly admire him even more. Dan Yuan and others were completely speechless. Just a moment ago, they heard Lung Yulan call Chun Xiang brother, and soon realized Chun Xiang and Lung Yulan were sworn brother and sister. What made them more surprised was the fact that these pair of sworn siblings were both equally abnormal. At such a young age, their strength alone was shocking enough. Senior brother Dan, the extreme martial sect cannot show any weakness. The dean will definitely not blame me for the way I acted a moment ago. Wait for me to go back. I'll make the sect send more people. Chun Xiang said. Dan Yuan felt extremely ashamed. He was a 5th-level true martial realm martial artist. However, he was still in awe from Chun Xiang's strength. Dan Yuan now understood why Chun Xiang had stirred up so much trouble and was a center of mayhem. All 10 million crystal stones were offered because of him being so unscrupulous. Junior brother, I know this. The Proud Sword sect are a bunch of softies. Although they are extremely proud, they only know how to boast. Dan Yuan said he had been staying here for many years. In regards to Proud Sword sect, he had deep understanding. After dealing with the Devil Yang clan, Chun Xiang didn't immediately leave. He was still waiting for Dan Yuan to recover. Only then he would leave. This would thwart the mine from being attacked again. Although they were living in a cave, Lung Yulan didn't mind at all. She had a strong ability to survive alone, which was partially why she didn't detest such an environment like other girls. Not to mention, she would be able to stick around her brother all day. This was what made her the most happy. Brother, the fruit you gave me is truly formidable. I haven't finished refining it yet. Lung Yulan was lying in Xianxiang's arms. She extremely liked this comfortable feeling. Xianxiang also liked cuddling her and stroking her soft, beautiful white hair. Xianxiang laughed and said, "You being able to refine in such a way is even more formidable." "Oh, that's right. Yulan, do you want to know how I taught a lesson to that crown prince after you left?" "I do," Lung Yulan excitedly replied. Although she had heard a little bit regarding the secular world, the information wasn't that detailed. Xianxiang very patiently narrated the shocking things he had done after Lung Yulan left. He believed that as an elder brother, he must erect a tall and powerful image in his sister's eyes. This would also help avoid Lung Yulan always thinking she was stronger than him. The talk went on till night, and Lung Yulan still didn't leave. Xianxiang laid on the bed with her arm around him. She had a sweet smile while listening Xianxiang's bragging. As time went by, Lung Yulan eventually fell asleep beside Xianxiang. Seeing that sweet smile on Lung Yulan, Xianxiang quietly gave her a kiss on her cheek. "My dear brother, from the start you received her as your sister with evil intentions." Su Meiyao tenderly spat. Bai Yuyu's cold scoldings followed right after. "Go away. Don't let your thoughts wander," Xianxiang said. "Tch, you're embracing her while lying on a bed, and you don't want others' thoughts wander in wrong direction." Su Meiyao clicked her tongue and retorted. "Exactly, you are so close to a girl in the same bed. It is truly despicable, humph." Bai Yuyu coldly snorted. Xianxiang mischievously smiled and said, "You two are just jealous. Every day you look at me bathing and I've not said a word. Now that I'm together with my sworn sister, why are scolding me for nothing?" "Who looks at you?" Su Meiyao shyly retorted. However, her voice was very low, and Bai Yuyu also stopped speaking. Xianxiang mischievously laughed. "You've seen me without clothes, and I've also seen you naked. It's almost like we are in a relationship, right? Hey, I don't want other people's thoughts to wander in wrong way. Especially you. You've peeped upon me when I'm naked hundreds upon thousands of times." "Humph!" Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu both tenderly snorted at the same time. When it came to this point, they could not wait to find a hole and hide their heads. Originally, they didn't intend to let Xianxiang know they have been peeping on him. Who could expect that woke up Xianxiang at last moment and overheard their conversation. Only through this stroke of luck was he able to learn their shameful matter. Xianxiang started proudly laughing. "Xianxiang, I too have frequently seen you bathing. You don't look good at all, and neither do you have the same attractiveness as when the two sisters are changing clothes." Long Shui interrupted. This made Xianxiang's complexion suddenly turn green. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu were both even more speechless. They obviously knew Long Shui's divine sense was extremely strong. It had even been able to penetrate inside the ring and see them after all. Although they were seen by a little girl, in their heart they were more or less somewhat uncomfortable. Truly proximity to pitch makes you black, Sister Meiyao, Sister Yuyu. Look what you've done. You've even taught bad things to this little girl. Xianxiang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Long Shui laughed and said, "Xianxiang, I want to touch your sister's white hair. Can I?" Regarding Lung Yulan having such bizarre white hair, Xianxiang had no explanation. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu also had none. "Okay, you better not let her see you," Xianxiang said. "What if she sees me? I'm so cute. I won't frighten her." Long Shui tenderly snorted, before a white light rushed out from Xianxiang's arm. Once the white light faded, Long Shui, this tender and cute little girl, appeared beside the bed. Anyone who saw her would think of her as nothing more than an adorable and pure little girl. That impression was further solidified with her being garbed in a pure white dress. Xianxiang immediately extended his hand over and ruthlessly pinched her face. With a wide grin on his face, he said, "Little girl, you should come out more and let me pinch you. Otherwise, these cute little cheeks of yours would exist in vain." Long Shui glared at Xianxiang with an aggrieved look on her adorable face. With her jade-like hands, she slapped Xianxiang's hands away. Afterwards, like a child had seen her favorite toy, She very fondly stroked Lung Yulan's white hair. Long Shui was acting like it was her most beloved doll. Chun Xiang was secretly astonished upon seeing this. He didn't expect Long Shui, who only appeared to like eating and being naughty, to also like stroking the hair of beautiful girls. Little dragoness. Why are you so fascinated with stroking her hair? Chun Xiang ruthlessly pinched her cute little cheeks, which made her jabber a series of curses. Long Shui suddenly turned into a white flash, before reappearing once again. This way, she broke free from Chun Xiang's grasp. Her little cheeks had already turned red. How can you bully a little girl, you scoundrel? Long Shui tenderly cursed. Little dragoness, you've caused me so much trouble. I'm already being lenient, or else I would have spanked your little ass until it was swollen. Chun Xiang said with a pleasant smile on his face. Humph! Are you willing to spank me? I know you can't bear to beat me. Long Shui stuck out her tongue towards him, and then once again vivaciously went over to Lung Yulan to stroke her snow-white hair. Lung Yulan was sound asleep. In these past 2 months, she had kept her nerves taut while living alone deep in the forest. Only today, when she laid down beside Chun Xiang, was she able to fully relax and sleep soundly. Long Shui whispered, "She truly has inherited the white dragon's blood. She's from the same vein as me." Her words gave a pretty big shock to Chun Xiang, Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu. In Lung Yulan's veins, there was actually dragon blood flowing. What did it mean? Could it be that either her mother or her father was a dragon? Was one of her parents a dragon? Chun Xiang asked. A human and dragon marrying one another and giving birth was only heard of in legends. Long Shui shook her head and said, I don't know. The white dragon blood in her body is very, very thin. It should be from one of her ancestors, probably from a very long time ago. At the time when she was born, that thin white dragon blood might have been expressed itself in her head, which is why she has this kind of soft white hair. While speaking, Long Shui took out a pair of scissors from God knows where. She grabbed a few strands of Lung Yulan's white hair and tried to cut them off. Chun Xiang didn't stop Long Shui, but very soon a strange scene appeared before his eyes. Long Shui was actually not able to cut off those strands of white hair. That's confirmed it. She definitely has inherited blood from the same vein as me. Although the white dragon blood in her is thin, as her strength elevates, it will also grow slowly. She would need to absorb a lot of power, but at that time she possessed strong body similar to that of a dragon. Long Shui kissed the beautiful cheek of Lung Yulan before transforming into a white flash and returning to Chun Xiang's arm. Although dragons were born without a body and just spirit, there was still a very minuscule small amount of dragon blood inside their spirits. It would be like mist that filled spirit. Through hereditary memories, the spirit would then start taking in a large amount of spirit chi to create a body that was strong enough for the dragonling to break their shell. That was what Long Shui once informed to Chun Xiang.